Welcome everyone to another IT, security and stuff breaking news edition here. And I still experiment with the format. Obviously this week a little bit more busy with Linux and other stuff, then can't just IT news update each and every other day. However, I personally have the impression doing this in smaller segments might be favorable to have some maybe shorter news segments each and other every day. Anyway, as usual, leave me in the comments below what format and length and whatever you find most useful. However, as you've seen this week with T2 open source build stuff and integration infrastructure work, usually stuff takes some hours here and there, and then probably I have the impression that it might not be the most informative or popular YouTube live stream format. Anyway, in this week's breaking news, Netcat, not Z, Netcat for Unix kind of port socket. Data stream transmissions are from the console, but a new Intel security vulnerability. What's with me today? Probably not enough coffee in the morning. Too much LLVM sealing, tinkering in the night. Also, of course, Intel security issue with Netcat. They show this threat is extended to untrusted clients over the network, which can now leak sensitive data such as keystrokes in an SSH secure shell session from remote servers with no local access. Yay, well done, Intel and those security researchers. The root cause of this vulnerability is a recent Intel feature called DDIO, which grants network devices and other peripherals access to the CPU cache. Yeah, what could possibly go wrong? Originally intended as a performance optimization in fast networks. Yeah, this is how usually Intel's security vulnerabilities start these days, as performance optimization, and they showed that DDIO has server security implications, exposing servers in local untrusted networks to remote side channel attacks. What is DDIO? Data Direct IO is a performance enhancing technology on recent Intel server grade processors, so probably you're not affected if you're playing along at home, most likely don't have those. Instead of read writing from slow memory, DDIO allows peripherals to read write from the fast last level cache like L1 cache there directly in the CPU, certainly the fastest memory and buffer you have on your system, and specifically introduced to improve performance in fast networks and so on. So that looks like this. All the last level cache, I guess I mean L1 cache, what do they mean? Last, first? Confusing. Anyway, whatever level, not sure if it clarifies this further. Anyway, if I go into each and every detail here, usually the streams become too long. The upside is, of course, this is only, well, maybe, so yeah, take a predict typed words. The good news is it is only server grade, which only server people have, and it's only local area network maybe, so you already need to be quite close to the target. But yeah, anyway, all this speculative timing based attacks not the most amazing. Anyway, in more amazing news, we have seen all the other big YouTubers and, well, probably mostly YouTubers, right? I wanted to say big news sites, but I think it was actually mostly tech enthusiast YouTubers and stuff like Der Bauer and other fun people that called out Ryzen here for not reaching the advertised boost clocks, and it was quite some discussion there and so on. And AMD now released, well, not yet officially, I think it's as usual a couple of weeks until it gets to the motherboard vendors there in Asia, but some people have already one, so they have some SDA. Anyway, some people had this already. So first, of course, as all the big companies usually do, they said everything is okay, nothing to see, and eventually the discussion, the outrage also was so large that too many people complained or discussed it, that eventually AMD felt the pressure to change something here. So they indeed, after saying everything is in order and as advertised and stuff, they released an AGESA update here 1003 ABBA. I said this already, AB banana or something, usual jazz there. Also, why do they not call this 1004, but no, it's ABBA. And that's planning to address this. And some people, this leaked as usual, it leaked to some people and some people benchmarked this already. I think it's not yet official to download from the motherboard vendors, I guess. But those people indeed, like Gamers Nexus and others, measured, maybe not yet Deborah, but so some people measured this already and found tiny improvements that now more often or more reliably reaching those advertised boost frequencies, at certainly only on one or so cores, certainly not on all. This is only like one single thread max turbo boost, but whatever. Of course, the performance improvements were only tiny. Like here I had this calculated. So this is like maybe not even 1%. I just took it from a couple of benchmarks. So this was maybe not even 1%, although I'm actually impressed that this improves this sometimes maybe a frame per second or a percent or so. It is certainly, well, it's for free, nice to have, although I said in an early live stream, of course not the biggest of a deal. This is 1%, this just highest one core turbo boost clock stuff, but yeah, certainly any percent free performance, nice to have, especially as software, as seen on this week's videos, gets larger and slower, so at least 1% free performance there on the silicon. I personally, I wish I would have one of those already, but can't buy each and every one, so I'm waiting for the max performance and the Max Pro version of, what is it even, said it so often now, 3950X for 16 cores and 32 threads for all the massive parallel LLVM sealing and Linux kernel compilation, you name it. And yeah, also some SDK, but we certainly not interested in that. It's some performance measuring nonsense there on Windows. Certainly we're not into this kind of closed SDK nonsense there on the Windows side. Although it is, I just see in the headline, is also supposed to slightly calm the idle, so maybe it even improves energy efficiency in idle just a watt or two by clocking this more down with the background noise. So apparently now with, I think as far as I read, with some background noise on Windows, like updates firing up and checking there and other background management stuff, that with just a little bit of background noise, it's not clocking up as fast anymore. So potentially saving a little bit of energy there also, maybe also to have more reliable turbo boost frequencies than if something really kicks off. Although this is of course only as long as thermal headroom and power and such allows for that. In similar operating system and such news, most Android flagship apps request an absolute number of permissions. Yeah, just the trust level, where do I even have it here? Just the usual trust level issues that I also have a little bit with Android, which I'm not the greatest fan of. I even proposed to have here some pull down tab stuff to see all the connections of apps. I certainly, by the way, don't confirm all of them. Even on macOS, if a website asks for my location, I of course usually click there on block. Even on flight booking site, I don't really understand why those flight companies desperately need to know my relatively precise location. In my opinion, all this kind of stuff shouldn't really have invented. And if you want this location API in web services, the only thing I would ever consider that to be a good thing is navigation app. Otherwise, I don't see why 99% of the website should have my location. Actually not sure in Safari, maybe this is only blocked for 24 hours or something. Not sure if Apple changed this recently, but it annoyed me a little bit a couple of years ago. As you've seen, I'm now more back to desktop Linux here anyway, with more usable ThinkPads and working keyboards. But yeah, on the privacy front, I would encourage each and every one of you to also complain to those apps that they ask for plenty of permissions and that you probably don't like this very much. And welcome in the audience there, Foxlet Fox. And yeah, flagship apps aren't even needed anymore. What do they mean? The number of seems small, but it's actually a pretty big flagship. Flashlight apps needed anymore. Don't need so many permissions. What the heck? Oh, wait a second. Also, I mean, flashlight, seriously, I overread this. What does this even use? That is funny. Requesting Android. I was reading flagship. So much to reading abilities in 2019. That is even slightly more funny. Requesting 77 permissions for some reason. What the heck? Why is even flashlight apps? Okay, let's carry on. Nothing to see. But anyway, in other news, even Instagram, and yeah, unless you post videos, which I even don't do, and I understand some people desperately need to post, like I myself, on YouTube, but even then, maybe don't give permissions to apps like Instagram and Facebook. Also, I personally don't use Facebook. But if you do, maybe don't give permissions to each and all of them. What's the flashlight apps? How did this even end up in my newsstream? Anyway, it's certainly much more popular already, I think, at least as I heard. Of course, they are not looking as sexy as other flagship phones, but as you see here, here's a new Teardown, and they are not only more repairable, but as I said, also produced with more fair companies, paying more fair minimum wage, which even if it's in China or India, or so, as far as they say, are above industry average rates, and more fair, and also source also rare earth minerals and stuff on more fair terms, and not with child labor and slave conditions. What is the most outstanding of this news? Usually you have seen here the repairability scores of iPhones and iPads with just a mere 1 out of 10 or something, because everything is glued and you can't buy parts, and yeah, even the bloody Samsung Galaxy S10 stuff is glued. Not a big fan of this. And a whopping repairability score of 10 out of 10. Key components, so you see this is possible, so much to all the people saying, yeah, it's not possible. Apple's special snowflake screwdrivers, right, Pentaloop and stuff, you name it. Visual cues inside the phone help with disassembling and replacing the parts and modules. Replacing complete modules is very easy going. For their internal parts is also possible and requires a Torx screwdriver. Replacement guides and spare parts are available via the manufacturer's website. Yeah, like not only 1 but 2 thumbs up for that. Just sell us the bloody parts. Most components inside the modules are individually replaceable, so some are soldered on. And need to check. The only thing, it's of course, I also want nice and nice design and stuff. But maybe, and by the way, it looks like this is more rectangular, that I actually personally prefer more, what I always criticize on other phones, like holding this with more flat edges. So yeah, hope you like this. And if you have any experience or stuff, always leave me in the comments below. Comments in the audience. Linux doesn't really have an app security model like that though. That's always prevented me about desktop. Peeved me about desktop Linux. Yeah, that is indeed somewhat true. Not really sure what that you probably mean, like sandboxed. That is, however, somewhat true, that we could theoretically also factor in our design and research here. Speaking about operating systems, Volkswagen's bold plan to create a new car operating system. Yeah, the company that brought us peak bugs in defeat devices and stuff, not cool anyway. And what is most outstanding here is, so they speak about, of course, using Android and stuff. The cars we drive are increasingly defined as much by software as they run as their engine or chassis, yeah, engine, and having some defeat devices, right? Controls, fuel management and anti-lock brakes. And what I found the most outstanding, so I did not really quite understand if they talk about some Android flavor, because they write here, contrasting the Volkswagen Group's current situation with the Android OS. Software, reason to have different architectures. The same software runs on a 60 smartphone as well on with Android OS, where the same software runs on a $60 smartphone as well as a $1,000 smartphone. Is now going to take similar approach to software, consolidating it all under one new internal group. And seems like Android, automotive grade Linux or QNX. and somehow I scrolled over this, it wasn't really sure if they mean Android or somehow, if you read this here more closely, but so maybe this is Android, I'm not really sure, and because they write here in large part because of the robust third-party app ecosystem with ZOS versus Linux, I think we need to open up. So Android will come in cars, giving customers access to the enormous ecosystem, but really be careful how much Android you're talking about. There's some runs really use Google's automotive services. Yeah, so maybe they mean Android, which is their own OS. Did they even write their own OS? Bolt create a new car operating. So yeah, so this is a little bit unclear to me if they really mean Android or new car OS. But if they mean Android, what is really crazy here is the number of people. So I found this most newsworthy here, that they want to have 5,000 to 10,000 employees just working on the OS. That sounds extremely crazy many. I don't know how they need so many. Do they have so many incompetent people, or people previously working on manufacturing internal combustion engines having reschooling to operating system design? Or why do they need so many? This is a crazy high number. Even if you factor in all kind of entertainment maps and stuff, but maybe they mean a whole maps division. I don't know. This is somehow, yeah. CAN bus and electric-driven vehicles such as the ID.3. Yeah, somehow this is a little bit fuzzy news here, and yeah, but you also have to open up all the car sensor data to Google, and when I say all, it's all sensor data, which is of course, yeah, really crazy that if this is really the case, that Google really wants like all sensor data, that is a little bit really extremely crazy, like each braking, each acceleration. But yeah, Silicon company contract negotiation stuff at its best. Comments in the audience: Escape has some nice sandboxing, no production ready. I think they're talking about custom Android fork for automotive. Yeah, that also sounds a little bit, to me, this is why often the headline is a little bit new car. But nowadays, as I said, I made a poll, we talked about microkernel, about the 1001 Linux distributions, and then yeah, anyway, this is of course, if this is Android, their Android fork for automotive, it's even more crazy that they need 5,000 to 10,000 people for this. This is basically a whole village or a small town. I have no idea why you need so many people, but I even wonder if even the entirety of Apple has so many software developers. Speaking about, I think I didn't have this in this news, but we could shortly include this. Huawei Linux made book. I read in the news, I didn't really include this here, that Huawei is now selling Linux laptops, and not sure if that is the very best news. I just as the next best, doesn't really matter. Only in China. A fun fact: I asked Huawei if they want to send a MateBook here for review and test, and they refused already 6 months ago or 8 or so, because they are a small YouTube channel. But there you see the difference, right? I asked Dell and Lenovo, they say sure, no problem, send stuff over here for some months to test, and Huawei's like, yeah, no, I'm not interested. So thanks for that, Huawei. Also, I think I would, provided I want to test this mostly for the 3x2 screen, that certainly is amazing for the screen real estate, and certainly I would have run Linux. The only thing I already know, I would not be the screen is the best, but I would not be the most pleased with the lack of ports and the MacBook Air kind of construction with thermal throttling and stuff. But here's a Linux news. You would think they use some Ubuntu or whatever, but of course not. By the way, why do they do this? Of course, US government imposed ban on Huawei, so trade war China, United States, yada yada yada, usual stuff. But the Huawei MateBook is being sold with deep in Linux in China. Like, seriously, I mean, yeah, okay, it's for China, but yeah, if you didn't know about deep in, it's hilarious. I knew about, maybe it was red flag Linux in China or North Korea. I think China, whatever North Korea was using, Astra Linux or whatever in Russia, and all the other fun stuff. The 1001 Linux distribution. So yeah, we're already at 1002 or 3 with Chinese after Red Flag. Now we have deep in Linux. It's a little bit hilarious, but there you also see the cooperation in the community, right? Not that people would eventually, even if 50 is too many Linux distributions, they need to make the 1002nd because, and if they of course cannot sell this internationally, right? I find this a little bit hilarious. Instead that they use something like Ubuntu that at least they could also sell internationally. If they would want to expand this program internationally, certainly they can't really quite do this with deep in Linux. Unless they expect everyone to just delete this and bring their own, which I anyway, if it would be for me, they could basically sell all PCs without operating system and everyone just brings their own. That would certainly works the best for me, the least money wasted for that sort. And in more news, you see my recurring theme of peak bugs in macOS, and even customers annoying me that our Mac software doesn't yet fully support, and this is most amazing on 10.15 in major old-fashioned print magazine and partially online magazine news here of one of the largest German news sites, iOS 13 and macOS 10.11. A lot of critique on Apple's Betaphase, so it's not only me who is over the years getting enormously pissed by peak bugs and all this stuff, but they even write here, strange have been the pre-releases of Apple more unstable than in previous, where they were previously already unstable, right? So even they write more unstable than in previous years, according to developers, like certainly myself included, and especially a lot of issues happened with iCloud, but not only there. Big known developers, well, unfortunately they don't mean me, but whatever. Criticize this a lot. Craig Hockenberry, developer team of and founder of Icon Factory, Twitterific, criticized this pre-release cycle as clusterfuck. Here, welcome to the audience. So I'm not making this up. I'm not just bashing Apple for no good reason. It's just the keyboard sucks, the rest sucks. Everything is glued and soldered. The software is increasingly getting peak bugs and getting features that I would never use, and the features that I would want to use, that some display works reliably, doesn't wake up reliably because ACPI is nothing that Apple cares anymore in terms of iCloud, and iCloud is deleting directories. Apparently, allegedly, I'm not using iCloud, but according to those developers and this news site, iCloud destroys or disappears folders and files, and they even constantly need to pedal back on new features because they're just not ready. So yeah, no surprise there, but just that you not only hear it from me, but other serious established news sites, certainly. In similar news, I made besides the live stream that I wanted to comment, which my second more live stream channel got copyright strike for, so you are not allowed to comment a live Apple stream. Thank you for that. I hope still in copyright disputes, therefore fair use. I hope my more live channel gets not deleted by Apple's copyright infringement claim bullshit there. Talked about this, probably most of the news agreed mostly that yeah, nothing much to see, everything a little bit faster, but not really major outstanding features. I personally didn't like this camera setup. It looks too much for me. Yeah, this is so much more. It's enough. I also don't understand why people need so much more camera, but whatever. As you see, even when I live stream here, I need a proper camera that I can like attach in forward and capture properly to something. And then on top of this, apparently iPhone 11 Pro triggering fear of holes to some people sensitive to holes. And yeah, anyway, there you have it. Even it fears people. I anyway didn't find it the most elegant and stuff. But yeah, so 2019, the design at Apple also not the most outstanding anymore. In more amazing news, I found this quite interesting because mostly people say the performance of iOS or especially the Apple Silicon is so amazing, like the best. And if you would take a look on Apple's presentation, that certainly looks to be the case here in terms of performance. Yeah, S10, although I have the E, but whatever, Snapdragon 8055 and Kirin and stuff. And if you look on the raw performance data, this actually looks quite good. And in previous years, Apple usually had quite a good integration with GPU using offloading to GPUs, especially for video encode, which still on Linux, we still don't have Firefox or Chrome VA API video decode. Is also hilarious, in my opinion. But what this news is mostly about is that even so, Apple is bragging as usually we have the biggest, the largest, the best performance, and then other people, which by the way I have to say, not only the Nexus, I have the Nexus 5 also, although not with me, but I have it. I showed this previously Nexus 5, although I'm mostly pissed at Nexus 5, I don't get security updates, but the performance of just browsing the web and watching something is okay, still after 5 years or 6 or something. This of course is by no means a flagship device, it's a Samsung S10e. It is totally usable, amazing, camera is good and stuff, not too much stuff to complain about. And so do you need this extra performance to have a totally amazing smartphone with Android? No, of course you don't. And if this is true, so this is here from other people's blog or something, this user here compared video export, and he found that video export, despite Apple's claim of having the best CPU and GPU performance and stuff, it's so powerful you can make movies on it and just don't pay attention to the multi-dollar sound stage and hundreds of thousands of dollars spent on equipment, lightning and talented team and yada yada yada. And so they have been running video rendering tests since these days with Pocket Now, synthetic benchmark are too easy to manipulate, so this kind of desperate revert performance, and they found that exporting here video on, so because Apple claims the A12 and the iPhone XS could outperform current Androids, they included some comparison using some favorite video editing apps on a OnePlus 7 Pro. iMovie is on Android, and he geniusly enjoyed working with Power Director Mobile. Rendering the same video on the OnePlus is a lot faster at the task than the more expensive XS, iPhone XS. The OnePlus also delivers a final video twice the bitrate, which this is the only drawback I have really. Maybe I need to use another camera app. I found the photos, they look amazing, but I have the feeling the default compression ratio, I also didn't find a compression quality slider there. So much you can have the same video, camera and whatnot, and it looks significantly worse on other cameras and video editing software just because the bitrate is so much lower. Speaking about bitrate, how a couple of drop frames. So yeah, there you have it, the very fastest. When people say, yeah, Apple is so far ahead with the silicon, yeah, maybe, but even with the amazing, super smooth ecosystem integration on iOS, it does not always necessarily translate in real world performance as it. I found this really outstanding. I did not expect this. I always not ever being trapped in Apple's reality distortion field, yet having quite some apps, Macs, G5, Mac Pro, iBook and stuff over the last 15 years. Even I thought with this performance and that app software integration, it for sure is faster. I just don't do video on mobile. I would not have expected this, right? So this is even for me, even if you are on Android and Linux and you think, yeah, the Apple performance is pretty high, it really takes some real-world performance. And this is even benchmarking here with Apple's native iMovie, so it's not like they used some shitty third-party app that doesn't have the best framework integration for hardware offloading. So yeah. Anyway, thought this is pretty interesting. Let's see what we have, except some 308 drop frames. We have some comments in the audience. And in more distros, any apps have files. Yes, that's on Linux. We're still on Linux permission for application. Escape has some sandboxing. We had this. Talking about custom Android fork for, yeah, okay, we had this. Did you know the new Librem something? Yeah, I've seen that. Since I usually didn't find working with a lot of projects and people very pleasant. Usually they were always very closed. I said this with OpenMoko there from Neo fame there back in the day, and this is why I'm not really that much interested in this kind of projects that often exclude external developers. And for example, the OpenMoko Neo people excluded me. I try to work with them. I have the feeling, so this, even partially German developers, I think they feared that we take this over or something when we only wanted to cooperate nicely. So I spoke with FEC, I said this already. So I gave up also with all the many mobile phone projects lost. I'm not the most interested in that anymore. When we found exact code and we talked with so many and nothing really happens there. So, and you see the development effort is huge, and so I'm not that much in this kind of, is it also, I think I did not even I think it was quite bulky and stuff. I would probably prefer the Fairphone then in that regard. But in other case, maybe even make a custom Android version for all kinds of vendors' phones. That would maybe some possibility in the future. KDE feels more buggy recently. I'm not using KDE. I just started recently to update all this stuff. For me, librem, so for them, Comet's audience, librem was hard to test due to the dependencies on Prism distro. Yeah, I really wish there would be some more universal compatible stuff. I think I made a dedicated video about this, like more regular software, like one generic Android to be installable on whatever. I think I made a video going as far as calling that you should be allowed to install your software, bring your own operating system to any device, including old iPhones or new iPhones, but I don't have a new iPhone. So yeah, that's probably something for another video. And in similar news, why did this not, what the heck? Why did this wipe some? Anyway, why is this reloading? What creepy website is this? VentureBeat, hello? Can't mix this up. Anyway, Mozilla launches VPN as part of resurrected Firefox Test Pilot program. I really wish Firefox would, first of all, nobody needs this, right? Nobody probably asked for this. And in my opinion, as in many others, big, like AAA, known researchers, security researchers, they will probably all tell you VPN is not a solution for privacy. Other methods are, but VPN tunneling everything through one data center stuff only makes you more vulnerable, because then some secret service or whatsoever, they just need to attack this or sniff or track this one data center and have everything from you. If you travel the world or sometimes here and there and not use VPN, then at least you are not as easily trackable. And then other stuff like Tor, although even Tor, the exit nodes are monitored by secret services and so on. So yeah, anyway, but that's not the point. The big point here of this news is I really wish Firefox, Mozilla with Firefox, they would focus on bringing the best snappy performance browser with all this stupid account login for VPN, for Pocket, for all the stupid Sync features that I certainly would never use and didn't ask for. I don't need another Mozilla account, but leave me in the comments below what you think. I find this really stupid. They should just, I mean, we don't even in 2019 still don't have VA API acceleration on Linux. For Firefox, that is really sad that even their most loyal Linux customers like myself on Linux, I've never really used anything else than Firefox on Linux, because, well, previously it was the nearly only stuff. Well, actually, I take this slightly back. Back in the day of KDE 3, I used Conqueror because it was faster, but I always had Firefox, Mozilla stuff around, and even those most loyal users, they can't support with hardware accelerated VA API. I even Googled this just yesterday. I thought, wouldn't it be nice to have, if someone already made a patch, and even if it's third party, to include this in T2. Usually we don't include many patches to keep the stuff vanilla, streamlined and easy to upgrade. But with this kind of major stuff, I usually make an exception. If there would have been some VA API hardware acceleration for Linux patch, I would have included this. I didn't find any. There are bug reports like, hey, hello, we want this. But I didn't find any bug report where was a working proof of concept pull request or something. I really said that this is certainly not what the heck, what is this even? Why is there this crap? Anyway, and yeah, this is somehow, why is there more? Anyway, we probably move on here. I really wish the companies would better know what their core competence is and what the users are asking for. But as usual, leave me in the comments below what you think. And we have a few comments. OA, no one stop as open device people to install anything on the phone. You can't compile an emulator image of that phone without pure OS. No one stop as open device people to install anything on the phone. What the heck? My brain can't even probably need more coffee to parse this. Yeah, anyone can make his own VPN, and I really totally don't. Well, there are even so many, and I will probably not become, well, actually my YouTube channel is certainly too unsuccessful anyway, but even if we become more successful, I will certainly not become such a sellout of selling VPN advertisements, because again, I would not. I'm only sitting here with Lenovo sponsored, huge shout out. It's not a paid advertisement, but they provided me with a snippet for a couple of months, which is amazing for really reviewing this long term, whatever I find here, and also potentially some Linux improvements here and there. So huge shout out, totally amazing stuff. They didn't even ask me to shout it out or show it too much, but certainly I can, because it's one of the most amazing laptops I ever had. But I will probably certainly not become a sellout here to promoting Tunnel Beer or whatever NordVPN for having all the secret services sniffing on all your data. It's hilarious. And there's a similar privacy issue with it, like the secure DNS program that just sends all your requests. Yeah, I usually just use the local DNS provider, except if it's doing stupid stuff. And then yeah, I sometimes, for performance testing, I throw in there 111 and 888 and 444 or whatever the Google Cloudflare. It's hilarious. And I only use them for performance testing, or if some other stuff doesn't work. I get the privacy sell, don't see how they could sell free without breaching users' data. Yeah, but even then it's not so much privacy, right? Because if it's going through some major data center stuff, then if criminals and criminal government organizations want to sniff on all your data, they just need to sniff there. That's actually making their life a little bit easier just to sniff everything there. So yeah, whatever. Although it should be crypted, right? So anyway, nowadays everything should be HTTPS anyway, but yeah. And case of Mozilla want to enforce secure DNS as default on all this. Yeah, okay. But secure DNS certainly, but you should have crypted. Yeah, this is actually a thing, right? With non-encrypted DNS, that is the biggest privacy giveaway of what you're actually surfing at, with all the DNS stuff going in clear text to your provider and everyone who wants to listen there. So yeah, certainly need some secure DNS there sometime sooner than later, which is of course hilarious, right? They want HTTPS for everything, and all the DNS is going to in clear text, which by the way, they can then track to what you're surfing, right? Your browser is DNS querying what is your bank or your signaling chat message app stuff, and then it's creating just a secure session to just that server anyway. So yeah. What do I think about Coreboot? Yeah, certainly that is totally supports this. Coreboot is a good thing, and in a way, when you see with all the Intel and AMD BIOS stuff, and to run them. So for example, AMD not even fixing the random bug on sleep on older family, what was it, family 14X, 12X, 10X, whatever the previous generation of, well, what was it, FX or Phantom or whatever, maybe FX. It's not even some, first AMD is doing nothing for 4 years, and then they just declared, okay, just don't use it in the Linux kernel, so whatever is wrong. Certainly similar bug what they had recently with the initialization of random, and just for the old silicon after 4 years they don't fix it anymore. It's hilarious. And in general, some of the BIOSes are also really bad, right? So I would much rather prefer an open source BIOS that I can tinker. And by the way, maybe we do this sometime soon with OpenBC or something. OpenBCM. Comments in the audience. Mozilla should offer support for the users to choose their secure DNS server. Really on maybe. So I mean, first of all, I think Mozilla.org has quite some money from all their search engine deals, getting their hundreds of millions or so, I read, or something of that sort. I think they are not having an issue with money. By the way, I'm actually recently realized they have even a Berlin office. So Mozilla is so large that you really wonder what do they do, right? Because in many regions, Chrome is actually leading in terms of maybe power efficiency or performance. I still only use it because although it is a Rust and cargo headache for me, it's still easier to build in Chrome, but for T2 and the YouTube channel documenting this certainly. But this will be another monster live stream, right? If I add Chrome support, Chromium, the open source flavor, whatever, to T2, it will be a monumental task. Certainly another 7-hour monster live stream if we add support for that. And then why I don't like the Chromium code base is because it starts already that you need special build tools just to build Chromium. Totally not a fan of this. If they would at least need make or cmake or configure make install, but they even need depot tools of checking out their Google custom depot stuff, whatever. You already lose me there. If I need special depot clusterfucks, then I'm already not as interested anymore. So basically, I'm like zero interested in packaging Chrome. And I would only do it like for YouTube content and maybe having it in T2. But if you need special build stuff, then I'm already out usually anyway. That being said, maybe Mozilla should do some subscription service that users don't need to pay money for VPN that they may not even need, and instead having Mozilla really work on features. I think the number one stuff that open source Linux users actually want from Firefox is most likely VA API hardware isolated video, because it certainly wastes the most performance and battery life, and then certainly other battery and performance tuning on top of that. But certainly if I don't really even probably need much of a pull to VA API. And I really don't understand after so many years, but there you see priorities, right? Linux is not really a priority apparently for Mozilla, I would say from that. Otherwise they would have done this already, probably. In more amazing news here, even on National Geographic, water found on potentially life-friendly alien planet. A super Earth about 111 light years away is the best candidate for habitability that we know right now. Astronomers say so amazing stuff we couldn't. Friday for future, we ruin our planet in 100 years, maybe not really living here anymore. So we have a potentially life-friendly alien planet only 111 light years away. So Elon Musk certainly needs to hurry up there with his space ships there. But hold your breath. You would think, why do I include this beside always amazing if water and potentially alien planets found? But hold your breath. What I find you really need to, this advertisement, what is really outstanding is when you read this, how different news can be, right? So you have here Exoplanet 101 and so on. Was it even 101 or whatever? Anyway, and then, or is it even here is announced this week's 2 independent studies came from years of observing K2-18b. And let's check this. So another German news site here, K2-18b. And there you see how different news can be. And this is even for me, I'm not an expert in, what is it called, astronomy or so. And apparently here this news site has maybe some potentially allegedly more specialist here, this Frank Wunderlich Pfeiffer maybe. And he writes here in German, the reality is totally different as many headlines suggest, and it does not indicate life, and but it indicates a huge problem in science. This is maybe why you all, including myself, but we all need to be more careful. Also, this is really hilarious, right? If this is really true, so I have no idea, and I'm not the researcher, I'm only presenting you here the news outlets. But if this is really true, that this author there is somewhat correct, that this is only populism to secure funding of future research and time on telescopes like Hubble, their space telescopes, to have like this popular headlines just to be in the news and get more funding. So this is really hilarious. So I have no idea. Leave me in the comments below if you are an expert in this. I find this really hilarious. And if this is really true, because he mostly writes here that this is whatever with so this is like light refraction, how light is reflected there in the atmosphere of this exoplanet. And they write here, it's not like Earth-like, it's if the data so far, he thinks, at least according to this expert, allegedly, that the atmosphere is not very pleasant. It's mostly from hydrogen and helium, and the planet might be much more similar to gas giants like Neptune or Uranus, and than Earth. And the Earth-like argument is the biggest argument to get the biggest way or something to get time on telescope. It's hilarious, and certainly news coverage. So yeah, I have no idea. Either they found something amazing or it's mostly financing bullshit. So yeah, it's hilarious. In similar news, what else did we have? Oh yeah, right, we have the interstellar object that may be heading our way. Why is this newsworthy? Not only is this maybe only the second that we are aware of or something, but also what is the most newsworthy is that this was first discovered by some hobby astronomers there in, I think, was it Poland or something like that? Where was it? Also wherever, but was this yeah, something of that sort. And yeah, you would think with all the NASA and satellites and telescopes and such, the big organizations would discover it first, but a Ukrainian astronomer, here we have it, comet first spotted by Ukrainian astronomer, amateur astronomer, and looks like to be the second known object to visit from our cosmic neighborhood, from beyond our solar system. Fun stuff, and certainly there you see how much you can do as an individual, not only in computer science, but even astronomy and all the other fun stuff, certainly, apparently, allegedly. And yeah, comments in the audience. Monetization program is pretty controversial though. And Brave Brother, by the way, found creators and groups that don't want to do known about the program. Don't mind, devs need to be paid. Yeah, this is also what we really currently struggle here, and also our YouTube channel not yet probably need to either abandon this experiment or up our production channel. I guess maybe hire some video editor or make a nice studio set. Anyway, in similar and less amazing non-IT news, self-destructing mosquitoes and sterilized rodents, the promise of gene drives. And so they made here apparently some live experiment in Brazil, I think, largely controversial. And I've not yet found this in other news. So they, to kill there the mosquito population, I think in Brazil, that would spread malaria or something of that sort. I think they used CRISPR gene editing to silence a specific gene, insert a new one in the next generations who will drive copies itself onto partner chromosomes, so that the genome no longer has a natural version of the chosen gene, and instead of having two copies of the gene drive in this, changes passes to the offspring. And they wanted to like use this to control the population. However, so what I've not found, so this is only the probably didn't include this here, gene targets. Brazil, probably should have included this. Do we? No, we don't find this. I think I found this over here. I think this was Jurassic Park there. And so I've only found this in German news so far, I think, at least the other day when I googled this. So it looks like this gene manipulated mosquitoes do not die as intended in the laboratory. So they made this huge controversial experiment in Brazil to this was not malaria, was it scalp yellow fever? Anyway, so it looks like they took probes and samples, and 10 to 60% of those now include genes of those manipulated, manipulated mosquitoes. So it looks like this kind of Jurassic Park scenario here, what Felix von Reitner quoted here. So yeah, so much to, they unfortunately continue to live unlike planned in the laboratory, and now they might become even resistant against some other stuff. And yeah, now fun stuff in 2019, having gene manipulated mosquitoes in the wild. That, yeah, certainly exactly why this field test was controversial, and exactly the worst case scenario apparently occurring there. So in other terms, how we continue to irritate the nature and stuff on our planet. Probably not the most amazing stuff. Also, yeah, I've not yet found this in English news the other day when I googled this. A more bright outlook. London hidden cable tunnels could warm thousands of homes. The fun stuff, why have we not done this previously? Just out here the other day. And how by, of course, the cables warm up, all the high power other cables and fun stuff. Of course, we have done this already with waste heat of other, like electric power plants or stuff, using waste heat to heat whole blocks in cities, but using the waste heat in cable tunnels could warm thousands of homes. That is certainly an interesting idea. So if you're looking for future stuff to kickstart your venture capital, whatever, your startup stuff, maybe this kind of fun project, of course not directly this, could also be different other ones of all this other fun stuff what you could do. Certainly, so you see, saving our planet here in terms of Friday for Future doesn't mean that we all stop flying or stuff, just making everything more efficient. Well, certainly a huge deal, like 100% more efficient or something for the next 100 years, certainly. But yeah, not only that we need to stop drinking our nice, warm, and now in the meantime cool coffee, just make everything 90% more efficient or something, use all excess waste heat where you find it, and maybe also don't waste so much. And anyway, fun stuff like that. I hope you enjoyed this quick summary. As usual, it became a little bit large. As usual, if I don't make news a couple of days, then after a week, then so much stuff we have collected, and this is only the tip of the iceberg. All the other small stuff already fallen through the cracks here. As usual, I made the question here as a poll some time ago if you find this even useful, and surprisingly quite some people said they found it useful. This is why I continued this, although the views are not the most amazing on this IT news content stuff. But anyway, I hope it's some general roundup of stuff happening and could be potentially useful for you. Can we also load this, or do we have here 381 peak drop frames? Not too many, but somehow we don't want to load this apparently. Anyway, we had this other poll also that I asked, are you interested in desktop Linux, microkernel, or like more generic universal Android distribution? Although yes, there are some of them, but you could always make it better, more universal, more automated, integrated T2 building stuff. Somehow the internet is not fast right now for whatever reason here, although we have quite some 5.5 Mbit outgoing here. And we may want to do some Discord, Telegram channel to this channel. Certainly something I need to look into then next. And I'm really surprised by this. Probably a short shout out here. Why is this so large? So scrolling, it's slightly hilarious, right? Modern web stuff. All this stuff is static and it's a little bit inconvenient. Anyway, so I'm extremely surprised that, of course, people would say, yeah, not yet another Linux distribution, but in the comments. But I'm extremely surprised. I would have expected more people want new, totally, maybe more modular, more stable microkernel stuff, or maybe Android, because people are tired of all the Google and vendor Android version. But it's a total surprise to me that 42% voted here for they want a desktop distribution as polished as macOS. Although maybe this is similar as what we had in the comments here by, probably it was it Fox, who said that they are not amused about Linux sandboxing. Yeah, it was Fox. So probably similar to that in more sandbox stuff. And I'm not really sure if people really understood what I meant by this is, although I criticize Apple for peak bugs, which certainly they have, and adding all this kind of cloud stuff that I'm not interested also for security and vendor login. But with what I meant is, of course, not using GNOME or KDE, but having some like real more snappy UI stuff, like a custom browser that is like really snappy with hardware isolated video, but also like an email client with like a modern UI stuff, like not C, but like I meant like really from the scratch, like maybe certainly more security sandboxing features as asked here for in the comments. Not really sure if people really understood with polished as macOS X I meant like new, well, there are already so many UIs, but not the most impressed by the development of KDE and GNOME. But that's what I meant with this, which I intentionally have written it like this. And I'm actually really surprised that although I've written it intentionally as controversial, as polished as macOS, that still so many people voted for this. This is really, there certainly is maybe really a demand of Windows is annoying and sucks, certainly with all the telemetry and update cluster fuck there, and Windows being Windows, and from Microsoft, and all the many distributions in Linux that are just KDE and GNOME or XFCE or similar stuff, and all just the same and having the same issues. So yeah, I'm not really sure if people understood this, but anyway, I'm totally surprised by that outcome. I would have expected either microkernel or generic Android stuff being there on the topmost front, but yeah, certainly. Also quite, you see our channel is not as small anymore, still small, but 3,589-ish amazing people. Thanks everyone for subscribing and sharing and stuff. 80 votes, not too little. So yeah, quite some votes. That is certainly cool, and the result really interesting. Need to think what to take from this. But yeah, in any case, certainly would be a huge project of the more vanilla, more regular Linux we have in T2. Need to think what exactly to make out of this. How, as I always said, so many ideas. We could certainly try to make some venture capital million business of some sort, although I also enjoy just sitting here and doing my stuff with some venture capital stuff that you first need to score. So first all the business plan and presentation, and then you get nothing. So not the largest fan of that, but if you would be successful with something of that sort, then it's certainly huge stress and not YouTube fun anymore. So not too unhappy with having my own fun here. And macOS has comments audience. macOS has amazing drag and drop functionality. Linux has issues with sending images from one to another. Yeah, this is old-fashioned X drag and drop protocol stuff. Global menu is another. So you mean global menu you like, or I always found this global menu a little bit controversial. More people will start to care for privacy after they realize not only Facebook tracks them. Yeah, also there was from Lou, but this is, the stream is probably becoming too long from, I think it's Lou, so from Unbox Therapy. Was it he? Or was it someone else? Where have I seen this? Not sure I've seen this. Anyway, on some other YouTube channel, of many of the other million ones, I've seen this no, it was some actually, I take it back. It wasn't Lou, it was some other political leftish there that you probably feel triggered if David Pacman shows it, scrolled by and clicked some video, but probably that triggers some of you. Anyway, he said he wanted to buy some extraordinary sneakers, and then he and his girlfriend got some news advertisements there on Instagram and Facebook or whatsoever. And I'm not really sure. So what, of course, this was not a tech, it was only a short discussion, not tech and stuff. What I wonder is, did they Google for this? So the big thing to know is if they Googled for their sneakers and then they got usually I get all those advertisements if either I or someone in my household, like my wife or stuff, Google stuff, then you usually get bombarded by the same stuff. By the way, fun fact, I find this advertising really stupid. Often I buy something like an AMD Ryzen or something, and then for months I get AMD advertisements after I long purchased it. So this is so much advertising. Basically, most of the advertising is really bullshit, right? Wasted money. Especially, I called this out before, when you Google for something and the number one result is for let's not a paid advertising, EasyJet or something, But actually this is not advertising, so this is well done. I had this, where did I had this? Was it even Amazon? I don't know. Some bullshit. Okay, they are also smarter than that. But anyway, it's some news. Maybe we should not show this. Often I just don't want to Google all this stuff now. The first result is advertisement and the second result is anyway their homepage, right? So huge reoccurring shout out, it is a waste of money. Don't make advertisement for your primary company name when your website is already the number hit for that. It's pure waste of money, total nonsense. And the similar thing is, I find this targeted advertisements. You purchase something and for months you get the same advertisement for something you've already purchased. It's hilarious. The advertisement scene, huge clusterfuck of waste of money. Certainly advertisement rarely helps me, and rarely I buy something. And fun fact, just that Google gets more money. Usually when I realize I take actually the extra effort not to click on the advertisement. If the first and second hit is advertisement and homepage, I usually make the extra effort to click on the homepage, not that Google gets some extra money for showing the website that I anyway want to visit. It's hilarious. But we have some macOS. Global menu is another. So what more and more people would start practically like the Apple menu at the top rather than file edit help in each window. KDE is global menu, but it only works for Q2 apps, not for GTK like Chrome. Yeah, this is a kind of integration stuff I would really somehow sort of be interested to. Yeah. So if just we had too much time and money, then we could just do everything we wanted to. But I personally feel, also sharing here our insight, I personally feel if you would just have the resources, if you would make similar to the 101 Linux distributions, if you make too many, then people don't use it anyway, and there are certainly already too many. But I somehow feel between people being dissatisfied with Windows and people increasingly getting annoyed with Apple and peak bugs also and stuff, there would be a void right now if you would just really make a really nicely integrated OS. Well, just like it's just a couple of years of hundreds of developers' time, but yeah, I think there would be a market, as probably seen from my poll there. And it's of course really sad that after so many decades of desktop Linux, the people are still dissatisfied and still would want something more polished. And in my opinion, this is exactly what I really don't like, and I'm increasingly getting frustrated with, that after 2 decades in the Linux scene, even I getting really pissed and annoyed with the reoccurring changes, or just changing X APIs, kernel APIs, just changing for the sake of changing under the name of cleanup. And yeah, what do we have? We have broken X drivers and still not amazing drag and drop. And yeah, somehow it's so waste of time, which I rather also do now educational YouTube content than having to deal. And you see, just updating all the KDE in GNOME takes hours, right? Although yes, granted, not updated this in T2 for a decade, then it's a huge work, but nonetheless, it's a huge work, and every distribution needs to do this, and so many packages and so much work it is, right? Even just doing better Meson integration and Meson and Ninja the other night was 4 hours or so, nearly surprised to my, or 3 hours or something. Let's see, restart is another. macOS can restart and get back to whatever apps you had open. Linux isn't always, it's always a new session. Actually, this worked a little bit, right? I remember, so I'm not on this kind of, I'm on black box and RxVT Unicode kind of desktop here, so, but I'm certainly very much aware, right? I still use macOS like 40% of the day for our Mac business. Certainly very much aware of all the Mac features and how this stuff works. And actually, I think this GNOME had this partially even in the GNOME 1.4 days, this session restart stuff that opened the apps for the most part. Anyway, but yeah, certainly this kind of integration is, I agree, some nice integrations that is not really necessary, but certainly nice to have and makes for a more integrated and polished experience. Part of the fragmentation, KDE Qt versus GTK, and there is no intergroup communication. Yeah, the problem is, of course, I will not solve this, right? So if But this is of course a problem if you make a really nice polished desktop today. The KDE and GTK people, Qt and GTK people have not solved this in a decade or two. So even if you make something new and polished, this will not be solved. I would probably personally solve this by making a much more nicer, as nice as macOS UI, although yeah, this is then another one, makes this really nicely integrated, and maybe even with Windows compatibility for whatever, like with Wine, because we already have it, right? And this could actually, yeah, it could be a success if you have luck, certainly, and don't annoy people with too many, the 1003rd Linux distribution with its alien UI and whatsoever. But if you make it really as integrated and like integrated, nice looking as macOS, and then like using all the hardware features like hardware acceleration and nice polished experience and non-breaking stuff like macOS, maybe it could be a huge success. I don't know, but maybe it will not, because there are already 1000 other Linux distributions. Anyway, as usual, just discussing this random stuff, stream becomes too long. So thanks for watching, hope you learned something, and hope to see you soon. And as usual, if you have any improvements, as usual, make your studio nicer and up your video production quality. Yes, I know, but there's only so much you can do with $3 a day from YouTube. But working on this experiment here. And otherwise, if you have any other suggestions, by the way, also, I personally feel like the format would maybe nicer to have shorter news segments, like each day, like only 10 minutes. That might be nicer for people to watch, even on commuting and on the go or whatever. But yeah, leave me in the comments below. Do you probably, or I don't know, would probably not say probably, would you prefer 10 minutes a day consistently, but 10 minutes, or one long news a week? I don't know, leave in the comments below, or any other suggestion. Happy to hear from you.